Hey guys, what's up? It's Connor Mitchell and I'm here in Boston today doing my review of the Sigma 20mm f1.4 lens for DSLRs. So anyway, let's get into it. So this wide-angle Sigma lens becomes faster than most other 20mm lenses out there by raising the aperture to f1.4. And just to note, I am currently using the Sigma f1.4 lens to record this video right now at the aperture f1.4. So coming in at $900, this lens is going to be $100 more expensive than the Sigma 18 to 35mm f1.8. It's also going to be a lot heavier, coming in at 950 grams compared to the 18 to 35's 811 grams. Now, another difference between the 20mm and the 18 to 35mm is the fact that this lens is in fact designed for full frame sensors. So that way you can use it either on your Canon Rebel cameras or you can use it on your Canon 5D Mark III. Going into technical details just for a second, this lens has 15 elements in 11 groups and has 9 rounded diaphragm blades for the aperture. This lens also has a hypersonic AF motor, but it also has a manual override so that way you can take over the autofocus anytime you feel it's necessary. This lens also has a built-in pedal-shaped lens hood, which is built into the lens, and it also surrounds the giant front element that sticks out of the lens itself. And this is one of Sigma's art lenses, so that way it is compatible with that little dock that you can connect the lens to your computer and then fine-tune all the settings to your approval. So this lens with the super wide aperture is of course going to get you really great photos in low light situations, and it's going to give you that really nice blurry background that you always strive to look for in professional photos. And having the wide angle makes it so that way you can get those blurry backgrounds and get all of your subject in focus and in frame and not have to worry about standing a million feet back from your subject. Speaking of how close you can get to things with this lens, it has a minimum focusing distance of 10.9 inches. So not exactly macro, but you can still get pretty close to your subject and have them be in focus and the rest of the background blurry. Now, having a 20mm lens allows you to get some really wide shots, but not make it look like you were taking them on a fisheye lens. So you can go inside of buildings and get pretty much everything you want in frame and not make it look completely distorted when you're taking photos. Taking pictures all around the city today, the pictures looked incredibly sharp, and of course that incredibly blurry background was incredibly smooth. Now, I mentioned the hypersonic AF motor in the beginning. It's a very decent autofocus. I wouldn't say it is as quiet as the STM motor in the Canon lenses, and it's not exactly quick when you're doing it in live view, but it is very fast to focus in quick view. This, of course, can allow you to get some pretty cool street photography while you're taking this lens around. And of course, all of that amazing quality that you get when you're taking pictures, of course, translates very well when you're shooting video. Now, moving on to the things that I found a little discouraging about this lens. The fact that it's stuck at 20mm is great for a prime lens, but if you want to use this lens as a street photography lens, it's not exactly going to be a big help because 20mm is just not that dynamic. You can get close to your subject, but at the same time, it's not so close that it has to be up close and personal. But at the same time, you can't get any distant shots. You can't get any of these buildings in the background. You can't make it look like you're standing closer. So that's a little bit of a bummer. And the other thing that's discouraging to me as a videographer is the fact that this lens does not have a built-in stabilizer. This is a little bit upsetting. It's not a big deal as 20mm is a little bit forgiving if you don't have a stabilizer, but at the same time, it definitely still has a noticeable impact when shooting video. With the aperture wide open at f1.4, you will notice quite a bit of vignetting on your photos. Not too much, but if you stop it down to f2, f2.4, that vignetting almost completely goes away. Also, with such a wide angle lens, you are going to get a little bit of barrel distortion. I didn't notice anything too much on my Canon T3i, but being it's an APS-C sensor, it is cropped down a little bit. I can only imagine that on full frame sensors, it's going to be a little bit more exaggerated, but it's nothing terribly bad. And like I said in the beginning, it doesn't look like you're shooting with a fisheye lens when you're taking this camera inside. And if you have the sun in your shot, which on a day like today in Boston, it doesn't look like it's going to be a problem for me. But on many other days, which you are likely to have because it is such a wide angle lens, sun is going to get into this lens and it is going to cause a little bit of lens flaring, obviously. And the other thing about that is that there really is nothing you can do about it because there are no filters that you can buy for this lens because the hood is unremovable, and of course that giant front lens element sticks out and wouldn't allow you to get a proper filter. But you know, aside from all of those downsides, this is really one of the most amazing lenses I have ever used for my camera. That incredibly wide angle matched with that incredibly wide aperture makes this lens really amazing to use indoors or in tight, low light situations. Now, is it worthy of the hefty $900 price tag? It really depends on what you're using it for. If you're using it for someone like me who wants to use it for product unboxings, reviews, and a lot of stuff shooting indoors inside a studio, then it's going to be an amazing lens to have. But if you're looking to do street photography and videography, this is probably not going to be the best lens for you. For me, street photography desperately needs a zoom, and videography really needs a stabilizer. If you're looking to do more street photography and something that's a lot more dynamic, I would honestly recommend going with the 18 to 35 millimeter, because even a small zoom like that is going to be a lot more helpful than having a standard 20 millimeter focus distance. But if you want to keep this lens in the studio and get amazing shallow depth of field while reviewing your products, this is the lens for you.